Hello and welcome to GoodGood Investing. I'm Rachel Grunn.
And I'm Andrea Cwik.
We are so happy to be back in studio with you guys, and I'm pretty sure we are right at a year of GoodGood Investing.
Happy anniversary.
I cannot believe it. It's flown by, and also I feel like it was forever ago that we started at the same time.
That's true.
A lot of miles.
I feel like we have so much experience in the podcast world. We should count. So we're on 52 weeks of doing our own podcast. But since a year, right? Because we had never been on podcasts before, at least I hadn't. Now we've been on so many.
Oh gosh. I mean, probably.
How many?
At least 15. At least.
And counting.
And counting, because we have interviews scheduled up. We actually just finished one.
Yes.
And which is what is really inspiring us to record this episode. It was so eye-opening and amazing. We're actually going to have Tracy on our podcast as well to talk about the amazing things she's doing with the Enneagram.
Yeah. I knew nothing about the Enneagram, and then we had that interview. And now I feel like I know a little more. But I am far from really being well-versed in it, and I want to dig in now.
It goes deep. It goes deep. I would definitely recommend the books that we talked about, The Road Back to You. So she kind of inspired us because, of course, we're business partners, and so a lot of our conversation was around our partnership and how it works and how we make it work and make it successful. And so we kind of wanted to just do a whole episode about that, about what it's like to go into business with someone. I know in a past episode we talked about TribeVest, which is a collaborative investing platform. So if you're considering doing that, maybe this would also be helpful for you to know who you are entering into a financial relationship with if you choose to pool capital with your friends or family, right?
Right. And the other thing is, if you really want to scale in real estate, to unlock that, you need partnerships, whether it be with your real estate agent, with a lender, with a contractor, with a team, a syndication team, like general partners, right? Everything in real estate, I feel, revolves around relationships, and you can go so much faster when you don't do it all yourself. So, yeah.
Yes, definitely. So if you guys are thinking about going to a business partnership with someone, it's so important to know what your strengths are, and that might sound obvious, but actually, like, be realistic and honest with yourself. It's not like a job interview where you say, my biggest weakness is that I'm too perfect.
I'm so punctual.
Yeah, it's like my biggest weakness is that I always show up early. It's like, okay, let's get real for a second here. What is your biggest weakness? And I already know what mine is. I mean, we just talked about it for the last hour with Tracy, and you guys will have to listen to that once it comes out, because I think it was very enlightening about the kind of behind the scenes. But my biggest weakness is 100% like growth. I'm not good at growth. I'm good at like staying where I'm planted and not like going outside of my little comfortable box. And so that's why having a partner like Andrea has been so wonderful for GoodGood Investing.
Yeah, so my biggest strength is being a visionary and thinking outside of the box and wanting to grow constantly. I think one of the areas for growth for me is being more detailed and slowing down, because I could be so ambitious. It's just like by nature who I am, that I want to do all the things, and I want to do them really well, but I want to do all the things that I could get overwhelmed and stressed, because then I have too many things going on and I don't know which one to prioritize or what needs to move today in order for me to actually make progress towards my goal.
Yeah. And, if I were to carbon copy myself and like just have two of me in a partnership, that would be horrible. Nothing, like everything would get done, but there would eventually be, the to-do list would run out and we'd be out of ideas. We would I love a good to-do list, but like once the to-do list is done, I'm like, all right, gonna need a little more direction here. What's next? And so I think it's also really important that, you look for someone that's complementary to you and someone who pushes you, makes you uncomfortable in like a productive way, not like in a they're creepy way.
Yeah.
But like someone that just like makes you really uncomfortable. And I think like at the beginning of our partnership, you made me really uncomfortable. And I mean that in a really good way, because she was stretching me and growing me, right? And I think if Andrea disappeared today, or whatever, I would still need that in my life. I don't think necessarily you're teaching me to be that way, but you're like helping me be more open to being that way. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I can't change me, but I can grow.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that was really what we learned.
Well, it's so interesting because, my husband is pretty much very similar to you. And we have such a good marriage. I'm so thankful for his partnership as well. And earlier on in our marriage, we figured out that I thought that he was too rules based, right? Like, I need him to enjoy life a little more and loosen up, right? And not be so rigid on things. And, we now are going to be celebrating 15 years of being married. So it took a little bit of work, and it's constant work, but now he's able to go after things that are bigger boxed ideas, bigger thinking. And I'm not saying like it's only because of me, but because he has chosen to see, like, oh, Andrea has something interesting. I'm going to push myself. So, like you said, he's not changing who he is, but he is allowing himself to grow. And I, on the other hand, need to stop and like smell the here and now, and pace myself. That's my growth area, is that like I really need to learn how to pace myself on all of my creative thinking.
Yeah, that's really good. So it's going to definitely require some like self internalizing, looking at yourself in like a very black and white way. And that's why like I'm really excited to have Tracy on the podcast, because she's going to be able to give people like actual tools to help just absolutely what's the word, like
Unlock.
yeah, not unlock, but also enhance their relationships, business, personal, professional. And especially if, I know we have a lot of really successful entrepreneurs that listen to our podcast, and a lot of them are in business partnerships, whether it's a 50-50 equal partnership, or maybe you have people that you've hired. You still need to know these things about yourself and about it. I think like even the Enneagram would be a great thing just to have as like a KPI whenever you bring on any new talent, right?
Yeah.
So like learn them.
It's so interesting because I hired on a VA for, my personal business that I'm pursuing. And I think like she's really good, fantastic at her job, but I still don't know what motivates her. So I need to now ask her, like, like, hey, just let me know what motivates you. And I think that's, whether it's an employee or a partner, knowing where that person is coming from is huge, so that they could be in it, right? You want to be a team when you're in a partnership. Whether you've hired the person or not, you want everyone to be on the same page.
Right.
And so, it just made me think that with employees, you still want to know kind of what that is that moves the needle for them, because everyone is very different.
Yeah, not only their motivation, but also like what's their fear? Like what is their fear to not be enough? Is their fear to feel trapped? Is their fear that they'll make mistakes? Like these are also really important in a partnership or an employee-employer situation. And if you can be a certain way, but also it's really important how I approach you as well. Like the language we learned from Tracy, it's like the language, the setting, the tone, like all of this matters whenever you talk to someone. And so I think that's really good.
And knowing, because prior to even saying that we were going to start this podcast, this is, I think, a huge gem that we can release to our listeners. We didn't do the work of even really asking each other questions, right? We were just like, we have this common goal of like, we want to excel in this investment, the real estate investment world. Let's get together and start a podcast. you would think it's a small, like, I mean, it's a big deal, but then just like a small goal, right? But I think now that we've like now done business partnership together, really getting to know each other and knowing the ins and outs of that person is going to help us understand them better. I understand Rachel a lot more than I did an hour ago after recording that podcast.
Yeah. Yeah, ask the hard questions. It worked out for us in the end. I mean, there are definitely, uncomfortable conversations that you have as you're figuring out how you work and how you best receive feedback or criticism. And even if you have a W-2 job, I think it's really important to have the opportunity to have these vulnerable conversations with people in your life. And you can do it with grace and tact, but also you can be honest, right? And not just sugarcoat everything. Because in LA, when I lived in LA, there was a phrase that you could die of enthusiasm. And people in LA all the time die of enthusiasm. People just tell you, oh, you're great. Everything you're doing is great. Yeah, that's awesome. Good for you. Let's go. And they're not being honest with those people like, hey, you're being self-destructive right now. Hey, do you really think this is a good idea for you financially? Hey, how can I help you? Because like I've seen you just make some decisions that maybe aren't in your best interest, whatever. And to be even in your business life, like you might be seeing your business partner, depending on your business that you're in, more than your spouse. You might be getting a different side of them that their spouse or their kids or their family doesn't see. So it is also a responsibility for you to have that relationship where you feel comfortable enough to be vulnerable with each other and talk to each other about those types of things as well.
Yeah, that's so good, Rach. Really good. Because at the end of the day, for us to grow, right, we accept ourselves, but we have to make changes to grow. And if we don't see the changes that we need to make, and you're like, cool, I have it all, and I just need to move forward, everyone else is wrong mentality, then you're not going to grow, and you're going to make some mistakes and learn the hard way. But in a partnership, it's really cool because the other person can see the other side of things in a completely different perspective than you can. And if they have the right approach with the partner, then they could help them grow further.
Yeah.
And just become a better person.
Yeah. And in the Enneagram, we have our types, and no one says, oh, you have to change types, but there are things you can change in order to operate at your healthiest, or not even if it's just your healthiest, but there's things you can change in order to best benefit your partner, business partner, relationship partner in a way that they can best receive it as well. Mm-hmm. So it was awesome. And from what Tracy said, like her 7 and my 1, I'm not going to get into the Enneagram right now because it's so much. You'll have to wait for the podcast episode with Tracy. But we like totally complement each other in a great way. But also we can really trigger each other because we are so different. And so it's finding out, let's focus on the complementary part and really like work on like the parts that trigger and see what we can do to either accept the person more or what that person can do to change their delivery to make it less triggering. That was kind of like the consensus, wasn't it? So good.
Yeah, and I think at the end of the day, it made me more excited about our partnership and that we made a good selection in each other. And I already knew that, but like it just, really helped confirm that, and that we could grow from each other. And I think this is just the beginning. This is just the year 1 anniversary for GoodGood, and we're looking to conquer the world next.
And what a great episode for our 1 year anniversary too.
Yeah.
Like just an absolute audit of the past year in our lives and how we've grown as people and partners, and it's just been so wonderful. So we thank you guys for being on this journey with us. We literally would not be here without our investors, our listeners, our friends, our family, our husbands. We love you all.
Shout out to our husbands.
Shout out to our husbands. They are the behind the scene MVPs for sure.
Oh, 100%.
And so we love you guys and appreciate you.
And our kids.
And our kiddos.
They're amazing.
They're so sweet. So yeah, we love you guys. We appreciate you. And cheers to yet another year of GoodGood Investing.
Cheers.
Don't invest good.
Invest twice as good.
Bye. Bye.